So I thought we would do a live stream today of something that I wanted to review for a while. So this is just a read-through review. We haven't actually played the game yet. And full disclosure, this review copy was sent to me by Federico Sones. So the designer of the game got in touch with me. And it's very rare that we actually have physical books because we're located in Japan. And the expense is something a lot of companies won't bear for us. But Federico, I believe, is located in Fukuoka, so he was sympathetic to us being located in Japan. So as you can see, the game that we'll be looking at today is Nibiru. Nibiru is a RPG that was kickstarted in 2018, I believe, and so released in 2019. So this is the core book. So Nibiru is, as it says on the front, a science fiction game of lost memories. And the cover, as you can see, is quite beautiful. I believe it was nominated for an Emmy for Best Cover Work the year that it was released. And it's got, you can see some nice foil, or I guess that's a little UV gloss on the logo itself. But a very nice hardcover book. It's got a ribbon. I think that was one of the Kickstarter level pledge levels, or stretch goal, sorry. I think that was a stretch goal. And so let's take a look at the back quickly. So, you poor fool, washed upon the shores of a place such as this, and a vagabond no less. You should know by now, only Nibiru knows how to keep a secret, and you, my friend, are about to die a second time. Nibiru, a colossal space station home to millions, where stories of drama and struggle are written on a daily basis. Take the role of Vagabonds, people who wake up inside the station devoid of memories, and they search far and wide for the lost remnants of the past, all while setting into motion a series of events that will change the face of the skyless world forever. The Nibiru role-playing game empowers you to write the unfolding stories of your protagonists and their lives, rewarding you and your friends for creating expansive, intricate, character-driven storylines. So the themes are memory, identity, nature, and artificiality. And of course, see, this is published by Modifius, who I believe Federico works for. And so it's a very nice looking book. So let's take a look inside. And of course, this artwork is throughout. There's really gorgeous artwork that sets the tone throughout. So from the cover of the book and from the first few pages, I was a little a little worried, like many of the nicely designed books we've seen for RPGs, but that they were going to be black black backgrounds, white text, and that's miserable to print. It's visually nice, and it prints, makes a very beautiful book. And this is what we're going to see throughout the entire book itself. Just gorgeous, very epic, thematic artwork. Yeah, and so several artists working on it, but the overall art direction was very consistent. So you really get a nice feel from what's inside. There we go. So Nibiru, from what I read, is a kind of an astrological, or if you talk about like Mesopotamia, like ancient Babylonia and Acadia, there's it's a body or a planet that for a while, I think, kind of in the Hollow Earth type thinking, a body that was near a star, and so and it supposedly was going to pass near Earth and cause major problems with the magnetic poles and everything of Earth. But Federico, I think, was inspired by that kind of early thinking, and so Nibiru is a space station, and a space station that is leaching energy from a star, and so we'll get to that in here. But yeah, it's a really interesting, really compelling setting. So we'll take a look. Here is kind of our table of contents. So it does a really nice job of setting up. So we don't really talk about the mechanics or creating characters or anything until about page 104. So we have a really nice setup of the setting and the lore and kind of how everyone is connected here. So I'm not sure. We'll see if I'll try to just go through the book and touch on things that really stood out to me as we go through. And another gorgeous piece of art. So the space station itself, Nibiru, is a disk, and the disk is spinning, and so that creates these zones. And so it's the size. It's size of a continent basically, but because it is spinning, it generates gravity, making it possible for humans to live normally, but only towards the center. So the further that you go out, the more hostile the gravity becomes, and of course air and water and all of those things become much more difficult. So I think we'll take a look at that once we get to the maps. And here's the credits for everyone involved. So chapter 1 is the first steps. So this will introduce us to the setting. And here was the big reprieve for me when I turned this page. White, black text on white. So much easier to read, much easier to print. So, and I'm talking about things I've seen recently, like the Alien RPG, or I think even Coriolis. It's a lot of color and black background with light text. So this was very easy to read. It was an enjoyable read, and it's been a while since I've read black text on white. So compliments to the designer for going with this look, because it's been a while since I've seen something that doesn't have a fake aged paper texture or something underneath the text, making it a little more difficult to look at. So the skyless world refers to, of course, the world of the space station. So you grew up in space without sunlight, without everything is artificial light. And this basically just talks about the what is a role-playing game and how you would play it. And it's a nice, and also talking about basic things like the social contract of being at a role-playing table, and also how to think about the structure of your sessions. So making them, if you think about them in terms of a television show, and the whole season or campaign would have a story arc, but each individual session would be nice to end on a cliffhanger, or really keep people excited the same way that they construct television episodes. And there they talk about the inspiration. So 2001, The Martian, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. And I like this, The Expanse, because I think the Belters maybe were a big inspiration for this, like people that grew up outside of Earth's gravity. And then of course the political tensions. So lost memory. So your characters are playing vagabonds. And so this is the thing that I wanted to really emphasize. I think what this game really does well is take that aspect that a lot of people really love about role-playing games, which is character backstory. And it foregrounds the idea of character backstory, but instead of you going off on your own and developing something that happened to your character or how your character got to this point, bringing it to the table with the other players and having the GM and the other players kind of figure out how this works together. The mechanics of this game serve to develop the character's backstory. Basically, you have no memories, and you're reclaiming those memories, and those memories determine how you play your character, because they have a mechanical, there's a mechanical importance to what you remember. So you're crafting your character's backstory as you're playing, and I think that's wonderful. And I think for people that really enjoy getting deep into their character and thinking about what influenced them, what traumas, what victories they had throughout their life to bring them here, this is perfect. I mean, this is a really nice way to make that part of the game and not have it be something that has to be reconciled in a session 0, or that is going to complicate the GM's job of world building or fitting your ideas into a setting. And a lot of that is, it can start you off on a wrong foot. So if your characters are basically starting as blanks, that really makes it fun for as a group to tell their story together. So that was the thing that I was really impressed by, and I think that's the big selling point, or the big quality of this game that I haven't seen anywhere else in a more major release like this. This is a really, really high production, gorgeous release by Modiphius. I think some, indie RPGs have played around with some of those ideas, but this is really, those mechanics are really part of this world and how this works. And your characters aren't adventurers; they're vagabonds. They're kind of exiles or pariah, depending on the people that are reacting to them. So some people see them as dangerous, some people just see them as bad, and others have kind of a worship or reverence for them in this setting. So it goes through how each of the what each of the parts of the books are. And then this was nice too. This is hard to it gave you a lot of flavor, but it was hard to go through early on before you really knew much about the setting. But the lexicon of everything that's here. So a brief description of any of the terminology, any of the different technologies, the names of the areas and things that are going to be within the book itself. And more gorgeous art. So House in the Stars. So they're talking about the vaults. So that the space station is constructed of vaults, or these kind of spheres of civilization, and each of them have kind of different ways that they're run, different influences, different flavor. So I thought that was well done. And so we're introducing how all of that works. And that's right. So they're talking about a flicker. So that the way that time works, or the way that they refer to time in the game, is a flicker, so a short duration. The Assyrian cycle, which is the longest period, which is equivalent to about 3 months. So they talk about a cycle, and that'll be 3 months, and then a true cycle, which lasts about 7 Earth months. And then a lapse, which are akin to Earth days, reference to the sleeping cycle. So there's different terminology for time, and time becomes important because you're constantly considering about the past and the future, and how long things have taken. And another nice thing that they talk about. Oh, so here's all of the Age of Whispers, Age of Strife, Age of Discovery. So the different periods of the space station. And another nice thing, here we go. So the core. So the core world is basically all of the vaults that occupy the most habitable parts of Nibiru. So where it all began. So the center, the center, or we don't have a map yet, but the core is referred to as the antumbrum, right? So the antumbrum, the umbrum, and the umbra, and the pentumbra. So antumbra is the beating heart of the station. So it's the core sectors. And so each of these areas, so the antumbra, the penumbra, and the umbra, have different themes that you would basically be playing in. So of course, because this is the most civilized and the most Earth-like, some of the themes in the gameplay would be things like the social game, the ripple effect of your events, and then the advent of scarcity. So slowly there is a collapse of the kind of post-scarcity world that they were living in, and things are starting to become more different. Resources are starting to not be as easily accessible. So that's changing the kind of social dynamic. All right. So yeah, so each area talks about the oh, and here's another thing. Yeah, it talks about how you can play in them, because they're all a little bit different. Some are rougher and more survival based, and some are more kind of social, like the social game, or playing within the system between the powers of a certain area. And when you're reading through the lore and setting parts, something that they do really well is have these little tail spark boxes. So these tail sparks are throughout the game, and they give you hooks for the narrator, as they're called in this game. The narrator to kind of help inspire ideas, or things that would draw people into this particular part of the setting. So things that would be happening in the Antumbra that would let people explore, to give them a reason to kind of participate more deeply with the characters that fit the theme. And also there's throughout the little bites of lore to keep you kind of more immersed in the setting. All right, here's a little bit of an idea of a map of the setting itself. And there isn't maybe they will eventually produce, but it would be nice to see an actual picture of the overall, like how things are related, kind of the rings of, civilization starting from the center and how they're related, because we do have maps of how individual vaults and spheres are connected, but we don't see the overall picture, which hopefully, here we go, which hopefully overall we'll see. So here's the spheres, the different areas, the vaults, I guess, within this core area. So each of them has kind of their own feel and tone. So Nineveh is a city of lights. It's unique in most aspects, ruled by a complex AI. So AI and technology do also serve a purpose here, and so we'll get a little bit further into how they interact with the characters. But there is AI, there is good and bad AI, helpful and kind of harmful AI, and as well as a whole ecology of plants and animals that are basically come from the power source, the electricity that the kind of bioelectrical power source that the space station is running on. So here we have all the different vaults of the very core, and each of them, either more merchant setting or have a here's a good example. So Azure, the first Azure was, where was that? Yeah, here. So it goes through and describes each one of the settings, and this is one of the in this vault, this AI is controlling, or kind of rules this sector. To give you a little bit more flavor, you have each of the vaults are gone into in detail. So here is a map of Azure, so this one specific area, and then all of the major places are described. And so you really get so the core worlds are more like a developed city with merchant classes and ruling classes and things. And as you move outside, the next, I guess, the penumbra, the next ring is more a very miners and farmers and people that are just producing a more proletariat kind of working class. And there's also ideas of colonization in that class, because this ruling class has moved outside of the core and is controlling different parts and the kind of the dynamic there is forcing people and invading people's lands for the benefit of the core. So here's all the points in that world. So they really go into a lot of nice detail for each of the parts of the city. The Taurus. So an oval-shaped, hollowed-out ring that pierces the skyless world. So this is the main mode of transportation. So they have these arcs or ships that travel with electric magnetism through this Taurus. So there's basically a loop, and that is the main way to traverse the station itself. Here we go. And the penumbra, here we have a little bit of a fold out. Let me see if I can give you a better angle of this. So here, I'm sorry, not barges, that's right. So here, look at that. Here is an example of one of the barges that travels the Taurus. So quite large ships. And then here is the penumbra. So this would be the next ring outside. Oh, so here we go. Yeah, we have, this gives you a little bit. So this is kind of a cross section. I'm sorry if I'm not presenting this well. So the Antumbra, the penumbra, and then the Umbra itself. So the Umbra, of course, is the most unsettled, most uncivilized of all of the areas. So the roughest for characters to play. I think the deadliest, basically, more survival based. So that gives you a little bit of an idea, and you can see how much less there is on each of the maps as you move out. And this describes what you're looking at on the maps. So the different hallways, service tunnels. So this is a space station. So, you know, basically anything that's settled is mechanical. You know, you're dealing with a lot of tunnels and things that bring, you know, water and air to different areas. So a big developed space station. So here's third chapter. So we're still talking about the themes. So the outer reaches are the what they refer to. So the penumbra, that second ring, is the outer reaches. And so the themes in the penumbra that I was saying were more about you know, more industry and kind of a labor class of people. So the everyday struggle, identity crisis, and survival of the ingenious. So those are the play themes. So you're not dealing with comfortable people in their little social interactions. You're more dealing with survival and being able to produce enough to live. There's another barge. And of course, then the Taurus corridor is going to be a vital way that they move between the less developed and more developed areas. All right. Some more of the penumbra. Oh, and here we go. So here are the locales, or the I guess vaults. Are they? Yeah, they're still referring to. So these are the vaults in the penumbra. So to give you flavor of each of the areas within. So Sarepta built in a large oil tank. Siena is an Arku's landing site. So the first ascendants, when they made their arrival, this became the largest settlement in the penumbra. Shepherd's Glory. Azure was the last Antumbran city-state to establish a foothold in the penumbra. So they all kind of moved out to claim these areas for resources, and these are their developments. And so then we're going, we'll talk about it. So there it is. There's the large oil tank that this vault was developed in. So yeah, really beautiful and thematic. So as you can see how people are, you know, living more on top of each other, more kind of shanty town, nothing luxurious about what they're doing because they're just a labor class. And here's more tail sparks for the setting. And then an example. So what we're looking at now here is some locations of that oil tank vault. Wow. The council. And then just, notable people, what types of people and characters you would meet there. And here's the Umbraic frontier. So this is the untamed lands. So outside the outer rim is the Umbra, so the completely untamed area. And so as you can see, nothing is developed. So this is more the wilds and survival, and 2G. So that means the gravity, and that's another thing that affects you mechanically. So things that you could normally do in the core, where gravity is normal and more compatible with your body, are harder to do the further that you go out. So by the time you're in the Umbra, you know, physical things become much more difficult because you're struggling against gravity. So here's more of the areas and what's happening out in the Umbric wilds. And inside this book is also a Beastiary, and of both organic, the kind of animals of the area, and then also the AI, the AI run, or mechanical things that you will encounter. And here's a little bit. So yeah, much less development in the Umbra. And here are the spheres, I keep calling them spheres, the vaults, the locations of the Umbra. And I don't think they're still calling some of them vaults. So some of them are still more developed, but some can be as undeveloped as a checkpoint camp or a ziggurat. So not a settlement at all. So here's one of those, not two. So Nataku, sorry. So Nataku is the greatest efforts of human history, a monument to humans' victory over the Kabadu, and proof that life can thrive even in the most inhospitable places. So they populated the rest of the vaults and formed the flooded countries. Today it welcomes outsiders with open arms and trades with Penumbra, sending food and batteries across the Way of Lanterns. So there's a lot in this setting. It's really developed. So here is that first strongest civilization. Wow, and there we go. So the circle is their power generating. So this is how you become civilized and also become valuable. You generate batteries for the Penumbra's manufacturing and industries. So who is there and the different locations. So yeah, so great character drawings. And here's a little hint of the type of wildlife you find. All right, so that was all of the settings, kind of giving you a feel for all of those different layers. And here we're going to talk about the mechanics of the game. And this is a very rules-light game, but it's enough to, I think, to really, and kind of heavily focused on as much of developing your character as playing your character. So you're playing in both kind of a past and a present kind of state with your character, constantly thinking about how your past is influencing your future, because the memory mechanic that you're using develops your character and who they are, but also, has mechanical benefits, mechanical bonuses, or negative effects. So dice rolls. So the game itself is a dice pool system, and you're rolling, essentially you would call it a 3d4, right? You're rolling d4s. And I'm not a huge fan of the d4 because it doesn't really roll. Like when it comes down on the table, that's where it comes down. You're not, it's a pyramid basically, so you're not getting much kind of randomization. It doesn't feel that random. And I did notice on the Kickstarter for this original game that they created d12s, cuneiform d12s, which represented 1 through 4, of course, 3 times on a d12. And that might be a bit more satisfying because you're going to get a little more of a roll for that. And so the basic mechanics of the system itself means a normal roll is 3d4s. And anything you're trying to do, so that's minus any bonuses or equipment or anything that would affect that roll. What you're trying to do is get at least 1 4 as a success. So any 4s that are rolled are successes for the thing that you're attempting to do. And that number of dice that you roll is affected by the circumstances you're doing it in, the difficulty, any gear, or any assistance that you're be given will affect that. So those are the normal rolls. So basically like a skill roll. And the other thing that you do is roll contested rolls for basically combat or conflict or something where the effectiveness of the other person is also comes into question and you're directly opposed or contested. So in that case, you would roll the dice, and instead of looking for 4s, you're just totaling the numbers. So those types of things, like some weapons and things, may give you bonuses that don't add dice, but add an actual like +2 or +1 to the total that you're rolling. And then there's also special rolls as well, and those are used for very situation-specific things. And so you're looking for so as a standard roll, you're looking for 4s to see if you're successful or not. And of course, there's cooperative actions. So just like a lot of the other dice pool games, people can roll as well to give you additional successes to help you generate success if there's probably a way, like kind of narratively, that they could actually be contributing to what you're doing. And then modifiers, like I was talking about, gravity can be a modifier, but there are other conditions that will affect you. Oh, so yeah, they're specifically talking here about gravity, so you can keep track of how gravity is affecting you. So where you are in the adventure on the character sheet will actually give you a place to mark how that effect is taking place. So every time you roll, you roll 1 less or 1 more die. The character sheet is really nice. We'll take a look at that I guess we can get a quick preview here. But this is the beautiful design of the character sheet. So to kind of fit the world itself, very different and very, very minimal. There's just a few things you need to keep track of and a few conditions that you have. So you basically have physical and mental health, but those just have conditions that you're in as opposed to a specific number of hit points or something. Influence points are another thing, well, similar to the currency, the kind of in-game currency, but in that kind of forces success. I've heard people call them kind of cheat mechanics or kind of give me points that allow you to do certain things like reroll dice, add an environmental detail, utilize powers from your revelations, and trigger other events. So this is the currency that pays for some of the other mechanics in the game, and they're generated from specifically awarded by the narrator for good play or good action, or you get one at the end of every session. So they're one of those things to kind of get you out of a jam, or also to power your your revelations, which are your strongest powers. So they talk about the body. So the body states you basically have the state of okay, which everyone starts at. Beaten is the second, and then wounded is the third. And then once you go beyond wounded, then you have to take an effect, a permanent effect, to your physical condition. And so they talk about in the game violence being a last resort. So this isn't a combat heavy, like there aren't really complicated rules for weapons and things, and there are very limited amount of weapons. So you're not going to be fighting everything to resolve things. It's much more about other mechanics than just direct physical conflict. So any physical conflict, they warn you, is going to be deadly. And so so once you are past a certain point, or actually, let me see how they denote that. So once you've gone, so going beyond wounded means you are dead. You're sustaining mortal damage. And so the emphasis, because you are building your character's backstory as you're playing, you don't want to get into a lot of confrontation that's going to make the whole building of your character pointless. So dying early on, uncovering only a few memories is kind of a useless way. So I think that's why they make things deadly, is so that you avoid conflict or find other things than violence for conflict resolution. And so the mind is the other kind of attribute that you have to track the condition of your character. And with mind, you'll take stress tests. So just like the physical state, you'll have an okay state, but then in the mind, you have stressed, shaken, and broken. And those will also create, so things like being broken. Okay, so a situation where you fail a stress test, when you roll that stress test, if you roll high enough above, the thing that stressed you, you become detached from. So you'll get an actual bonus from being mentally detached from things. So if things not disturbing you anymore or not stressing you anymore, you actually have an advantage over. But that's kind of taking away, your character's becoming hardened and much more much less in touch with the world, I would say. And so the conditions, once you become broken, the effects, the permanent effects, just like physical effects, the permanent effects that you can have from being broken are things like hearing voices, recurring memories, paranoia, depression, anxiety, hallucinations. So those become things that permanently affect your character once you fail a lot of stress rules. And so here is the Memos System. So this is kind of the key, or the main mechanic of your character, and how you're creating who your character is and how they kind of work in the world and what they're capable of doing. So when you're doing certain things, the narrator describes kind of what type of action that is, and you make rolls for that. And the thing that powers, so let me is that here? So making rolls for certain actions will also help you to unlock memories. So 3 ways in which characters can acquire memory points. So at the end of every session, you get memory points. Following your beacon for a specific task, by the habitat you chose. The habitat is kind of your origin, your place of origin, and creating a negative memory. So you can choose to create negative memories to be awarded points that then you can spend to generate positive memories. And we'll take a look at how that works a little bit later. But all memories are kept track of in your journal. And here is your journal sheet. So this is on the back of the player sheet in the back. So as you can see, the journal contains 8 entries, and at the bottom here, you can see there's a space for revelation. So once you've had 8 memories, either positive or negative, that allows you to purchase a revelation. And a revelation is kind of it's either a passive or an active permanent effect on your character, a permanent ability that they can do, and they're quite powerful. So you enter memories, individual memories. Each memory has 2 spaces. The I remember, the one line starts I remember, and the other one starts with the effect. And so examples of those would be, and so depending on the number of memory points that you spend to create a positive memory, that's what kind of a benefit it will give you. So for example, spending, 2, 3, and 5 will either give you a +1, a +2, or a +3 to whatever ability you're remembering. And there's also a rule called, and so negative memories do the opposite. So if you write down a negative memory, you can earn 2 or 3 memory points, but you do get a permanent penalty for a specific type of action. So you kind of have a trauma from something that you did in the past or something that you failed at, and that generates memory points for further bonuses, but also kind of fleshes out like what your character is not good at. The other rule is when you're doing you're rolling the d4s, a rule of 3s. So if you ever roll 3 4s or 3 1s in a single roll, that will allow you. So that will also allow you to instantly fill in a memory entry. And so based on the action that you are performing, and the memory will always be a +1 or a -1. Violent recollections. So there's an exception to the rules of how memories work when it comes to certain action types associated with combat. So if you spend 2, that's right. So when you're taking a violent action, the other thing that you're doing is deciding like how far down you want to knock someone. So if everyone's starting at okay physically, how far down, if you're actually trying to physically disable them or take them completely out of action or hurt them or attempt to kill them. So if you're doing harm, then how you roll, how successful the roll is, will also have that effect. But yeah, but violent memories are generated more through combat, and depending on how much you're trying to actually hurt someone. And so revelations. So this was at the bottom of the sheet itself. And so once you have 8 positive or negative memories filled in, you're able to unlock a revelation. So you need to spend, let's see, so 2, and you get a point reduction. So a revelation will cost you a certain number of memory points, but that price can be reduced. So 4 memory points to write down your revelation based on all of those memories, but the cost can be reduced by, if you have 2 negative memories on the sheet, it's reduced by 1. At least one of the memories is generated by a rule of 3s, the cost is reduced by 1. And then if at least 5 memories on the page are 4 or more lines long, so if you wrote more detail and kind of explained more of what happened, so the more you write for each entry, it gives you the ability. So basically you can get a revelation for free if you've done all of these things in your journal sheet, on that page of the journal. And it's per page, so as you fill up each page, it spells things out. And so positive and negative, passive and active revelations can be triggered, and the players can use them by spending 3 influence points. All right. So here are some of the revelations. And so these are things that permanently affect your character. So something like Revelation of the Thief. This can be triggered While touching another human's skin, the narrator writes a memory in your journal. This is a significant memory that means a lot to the subject, and it cannot be used with another vagabond. The memory has no effect. So you basically can take memories from other people. The revelation of the artisan allows you to store memories in objects. The revelation of the harbinger allows you to experience a premonition. And so at the beginning of the session, you can write a memory with no effect that will describe a moment in the near future, and the narrator has to incorporate that. The revelations of the companion, upon activating, the player can choose a character from the vagabond's past life that was featured in one of your written memories, and between this and the next session, the narrator will introduce this character as they find their way to your group. So as you can see, a lot of things that have powerful effects and also have heavy narrative or story effects. Like you're basically forcing the narrator to change, maybe what they were doing at the world, or add aspects to the world. And so several revelations to choose from. All right, so now to the Vagabond. So this is character creation, and look at this. Yeah, just gorgeous art. Really nice. And so this is kind of showing you also the range of kind of types of players. So you can play a very dark, hunted, not even completely organic character, or a very, blissful, pristine human, not affected by much. They lived a sheltered life in the core their whole lives. So the Amnesiac hidden from the peoples of Nibiru, might be the biggest and most intriguing secret, a group of humans descending upon the station bearing strange recollections of wild, otherworldly existences that, for one reason or another, have been kept away across the cycles of history, hidden in the mists of time. So you contain kind of dangerous memories that no one has ever, of things that no one has ever known, and that's why you... that's why you're terrifying to some people and very worshipped by others. So, what do vagabonds remember? A vagabond are not a blank slate. They certainly know how to survive, and although devoid of almost every memory, they still recall a series of hazy images that instantly pop into their minds when they are thinking about their lost lives. The names of those that are close to them, as well as the names of places where they come from, should be clear. They definitely recognize sounds, images, scents from their habitats. Upon finding these, the narrator should award memory points. After all, these are the sensorial cues that push memories to the surface. So, when you're creating your vagabond, you need to select the character creation. Here we go. So the character creation is very simple. There's kind of a simple 4 steps. So they suggest you come up with a concept. So what kind of character you would want to play, come up with some adjectives to describe them, and then think about the character's past. So that would be the habitat where they come from. So there's kind of origins. The habitats of Nibiru give you themes to your origin. So we'll go through those in just a sec. And then you set up, or you consider their present situation, and kind of why they're involved in a group, and kind of what the group's goals are. And then the 4th step is just naming your character. So here's a quick overview of the habitats. So these are kind of your origin places, kind of where you've come from. So the first would be the machine, and here's an example of the machine. So comprised of the records of the defunct AIs, as they undergo an awakening of consciousness, compiled and downloaded to the vagabond's mind. These recollections tell a tale of complex machines struggling to understand not just the world and its seemingly apathetic denizens, but also the emotions and thoughts and dreams they experience. So you can create some pretty dark cyborg AI-haunted characters. Bright Town is a small countryside village seemingly removed from the rest of the station. People from Bright Town are extremely nostalgic, and they yearn to return to a vivid, colorful past in a sunny landscape that bears apparently no resemblance to the cold landscapes of Nibiru. Some more idyllic and beautiful memories. So I think that was the illustration that we saw, the contrast. The Dreamlands, like the machine, represent a compilation of memories. In these cases, missing memories of people's past. They've thus lived tens, if not hundreds of years before, and a phenomena blessed them with a great degree of empathy and understanding. The wild represents a collection of memories gathered from Nibiru's lesser creatures, processed and then stored in a human body, with an extra-sensorial connection to the strange entity known as the Leviathan. Vagabonds from the wild are biologically tied to something deep and primal that inhabits the far corners of the station. Maybe the darkest origin is the Dreadlands, a fictitious habitat, the invention of a creative genius with a tragedy in their minds and a strange agenda on the works. Comprised of a collection of stories in the vein of Homer's Oedipus Rex and Shakespeare's Hamlet, these tragedies are inserted into an unborn mind, then twisted plots become fuel for the otherworldly parasite known as the nightmare. So there's all your goth origin, your goth characters. So then they go through what each of these settings do and kind of how you create those characters. And so some examples of memories that you would have if you were from the machine is, I remember wandering off of the storage area. I remember grocery shopping with the master. So these, as you can see, have mechanical effects. So the memories that you would choose. So kind of staying thematic with your place of origin. The memories that you choose give you those sorts of memories. So a special rule, the lost tongue. So vagabonds of the machine have inherited the ability to utter and comprehend an otherworldly language which resonates in frequencies inaudible to most. The language is only utilized by the oldest systems of the station, strange mechanisms, long lost to history that lay dormant and far in the far corners. So when someone speaks the lost tongue, the vagabonds of the machine can make a special 1-die roll. It will increase 1 die for each first transmission recorded after the first. Wow. So the secret language of machines you are exposed to. And then here's the wild origin. So things like sneaking, forcing doors, empathy, bonuses. So the synapse. Oh, that's right. So if you're from the wilds, you have a connection to the Leviathan. Leviathan is this large creature in the wilds. I think we'll get a picture later. So establishing their connection to the Leviathan what happens once the link is in place, however, is up to the mother to determine. The synapse is a process under which the Leviathan exerts control over all living beings. So when a vagabond wishes to enter the synapse, they make a special roll, 3d4, and then speech, motor, or sense effects. Well, all right, and the Dreadlands. So here's the dark, haunted. So I remember, so sprinting, cooking, keeping your goal. So the Dreadlands are strained with a bleak atmosphere, and though they might sometimes portray moments of happiness, they're always punctuated by a dark, odd, or ominous aura. Yes, and here's the Dreamlands. Yeah, so the Dreamlands don't give examples of the dreams because they contain so many of other people's dreams. The conduits of empathy. Strange phenomena responsible for collecting memories of the Dreamlanders involve the disease that robs people of part of their past. This wandering ailment eventually carries those memories into the unknown from which the Dreamlanders emerge. So people's memories disappearing. Nice. And then Bright Town. Oh, the illustration for Bright Town is not so bright. Collision with contrast. So memories of Bright Town are filled with longing, sugar-coated with all the romance and nostalgia you might need to survive in the skyless world's oppressive atmosphere. Nice. So you're optimistic and sugar-coating everything. So here we go. So here is some of this is the Beastiary. So while the earth had its primordial soup, the birth of Nibiru's fauna was nourished by the very lifeblood of the station, electricity. So all the life forms in Nibiru are bioelectrical. So they kind of they seem to have some equivalence to kind of earth creatures, as you can see, kind of a fox-like character. So a sparkling, yeah, these are really, really great ideas. A lion, a slicer, the pulse swing, as you can see. There we go. The leaper. the Serpent of Azure, Webworm. Yeah, really great illustrations as well. Mermaids. Yeah, this is I keep seeing this talked about online, how dark and disturbing the mermaids are. So it's actually, this is the mermaid, and they're capturing the corpse. This is like a dead body that they're feeding off of, but they're using it to seduce further prey. So it's this kind of parasitic or symbiotic creature that is basically digesting a dead body. Shucktails, Asapu, and sheep. Oh, nice. And so the flora, because there is no light, and we're basically a skyless, is completely skyless. There is fungus. So the fungi are the main food sources and the only plant life, basically in the station itself. So here's a explanation of the different types of fungi you can find. And then we move to the steelkin, the AI-based inhabitants. So this reminded me a little bit of the Horizon Zero Dawn, the game that, where they were kind of depicting mechanical wildlife. But in the same way, these are all useful machines that kind of live like droids or whatever they function in society. But having that mix of the wilds and the AI reminded me a little of that. Some of these designs. Fixer, the washer. And different, so even smaller ways that people are interacting with AI. Oh, I like this, the archiver. One of the first ideas for the usages of AI was to collect and store information about the history of each city-state. So they created these archivers. Reminds me of remembrancers in the Siege of Terra that I've been reading. Hauler AIs, birther AIs. Yeah, this is a little interesting and dark, but yeah, so there's people interacting. The children of Europa, little AI-based children. So it's so most of what they're depicting have specific roles and kind of function within society, but I'm sure there's things that can be darkly corrupted. All right, so chapter 8 is By the Lamplight. So here's talking about I think this is the narrator. This is the kind of advice for the narrator on how to work through things, and also the kind of social contract of being at the table and making sure everyone's comfortable and talking about. I believe there's also safety tools that they discuss to to make sure that people can kind of tap out or just say, I'm not comfortable with this. Can we not? Because if you have something like the mermaid or something that's a little dark in conception, that may turn some people off. But to always be kind of mindful. So advice on story planning, and then here's the science. So this is interesting because they want to have, even though there's so much fantasy and it's about dreams and memories and things, they still want to have a basis in science that is satisfying to people. So it's not all just whatever you want. So talking about how how the gravity works, how the power of the station, the air and oxygen, how a lot of those things work to give you a more realistic kind of groundwork for the setting itself. Watershed. All right. So in short, oh, that's right. So watershed is this is the introductory. So I guess I'll just kind of quickly flip through this. I don't want to spoil anything, but different scenes. So watershed is the introductory adventure to kind of get people into the world and start generating the memories before you maybe start a longer campaign or a more intense setting or play. So you just have some experience with what's going on and help kind of see things in the setting. I believe that is it. Yes. So here we have the list of backers from their original 2018 Kickstarter. And then once again, this wonderful character sheet that they did. So as you can see, you're keeping track of your memory points, your influence points, how the gravity is affecting your roles, and then your states of both mind and body, and then things that you possess, either notes or your actual belongings, and then what benefits, positive or negative, effects, positive or negative, that your memories have been having. So you can basically list, +1 to climbing, -1 to negotiation, like things that you've failed or been successful at that have then become written in your journal page for your memories. So that is everything. So this was a real surprise. I mean, I think I noticed this when it was on Kickstarter, but it was the timing was just bad. I think I was backing so much else that this just didn't get through. But I'm so grateful to Federico for sending me a copy. And it's always one of those things where someone sends you a review copy and you hope that you will like it. You hope it'll be something that you like and can really kind of passionately talk about. And this is one of those games that I really I'm really excited about playing with people. I have specifically a game group that I think will enjoy this very much. They're all kind of, they all want to be doing writing, and they all enjoy like the character backstories in roleplay. And I think this will be a really good fit because it's a sci-fi setting, but it's not going to be combat heavy like crawling space stations and Alien or anything. It has a really nice feel to the setting. And so another reason that I'm talking about this now, and why Federico sent this, is currently they have a Kickstarter for a second book called Xanadu. And Xanadu it was kind of described as what they weren't able to include in this original book, like kind of more elaboration on the setting, and also creating kind of antagonists that your vagabonds can deal with. So giving you more to do in adventures and having a much more detail about the world and how you're going to interact with certain things. So please check that out. I think they're in their last few days. So I'll put a link in the description for this. And if you're interested in giving this a shot, take a look. I think it's easy to get a hold of the PDFs, and also the Modifius web store has this for offer. And I'm sure you can find it on just about any bookseller site, because it's officially out for retail now after it's been fulfilled for the Kickstarter. But this is Nibiru. And so I was really surprised. I mean, there's a lot that I can't quite, I need to, I think, go through the lore again, or kind of the setting again, to really put things in place, and maybe in further adventures. Like, I don't have the confidence from just reading this book. I don't have the confidence, I think, to create my own adventure. There's good advice about how to do that for the narrator, but I don't feel like I have my head around the setting enough. But I think in the supporting materials, there's other adventures that they published along with the Kickstarter. And then this new book that's coming out is going to further elaborate on the setting. And I think I need just that little bit more to really, have my head around it and know what I would want to do as a narrator running this game. But I definitely want to start with the watershed first adventure in here, and see what players think about that. Because this does a nice job of kind of getting around the session 0 and really including the character development as part of the gameplay. I think that's a really brilliant idea, and it's executed really well in here thematically. It fits really well and matches this world, this like dark, mysterious, skyless world that everyone lives in. So that is Nibiru. So thanks again, Federico, for sending this copy. And take a look at the Xanadu Kickstarter, which is in its last few days. You're able to purchase not only the new book, but also everything that was available at the previous Kickstarter. So the narrator screen, the dice, everything that they produced, maps and things they produced for the first Kickstarter, are also still available. So it's a good time to pick this game up and all of its support materials. And I really like the metallic D12s with the cuneiform symbols. Those are really tempting too, because the idea of rolling D4s for an entire session is that's the only thing. I understand the use, because it makes things more possible than a D6. You're basically at a 25% success rate for every die roll, and that makes a lot more sense. Things are a lot more possible, but at the same time, D4s just don't roll. So a D12 is a beautiful solution to that. So thank you very much for joining me. And here, let me take a look. Sorry, just take a look at the chat. Sweet. Oh yeah, so yeah, Thank you, Dustin. Yeah, 4 days to go on the Kickstarter. And nice. Yeah, very cool. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching. And yeah, check out the Kickstarter and see what you think, because there's an all, of course, for all of the Kickstarter RPGs, they often do a digital only, which is a very cheap way to get all the materials. But the production that they did for these books is gorgeous. So I think it's definitely worth, if you want to run this at a table, to have a nice digital version. And like I said, there's gorgeous illustrations, but also the pages are actually white. That's such a, I mean, I understand the artistic, direction and the look of wanting to have a very thematic graphic design in your books and layout, but it's so nice to read just black text on a white paper. All right. So yeah, thanks for joining me, everybody. And I will put all the information for the current Kickstarter in the description. And this has been Nibiru. So Nibiru is by Federico Sones, and I would definitely recommend taking a look at this if you really enjoy character backstory. If you like crunchy systems and combat, it's not in here. So this is more about people kind of interacting with this world of mystery and developing their character as they're interacting with that world. And I think if that sounds compelling to you, this is definitely a game you should check out. So thanks for joining me, and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more of these and get notifications about live streams and see everything that we post. So I've been doing a lot of live streams lately, and any of these that kind of need to be cut down, they got a little too rambly, maybe I'll do another version where I take this file and make it a little easier to read, and hopefully the flip through gave you a nice idea of the quality. So this is going to be the same quality that you're going to be looking at for the Xanadu book, just really gorgeous depictions of maps, and even the nice fold outs. This was such a nice surprise, the barge detail. So yeah, nice quality design, and that is it. So thanks for joining me, and give us a like and share this video to help them push that Kickstarter to hit all of those stretch goals they've been looking at. And thanks again. Goodbye.